This is a short animation that explains the basic rules of Land Rush. Land Rush is a board game that enables players to understand the challenges of farmers from different social classes in a competitive land arena. It is based on the lives of farmers in Central Africa's Great Lakes region. In Land Rush, you play the part of a rich, a middle class or a poor farmer who's involved in a struggle for land. This game is all about competing with the other players to acquire as much land as possible. So let's take a closer look at the arena you'll be competing in. It's made up of 4 zones in which to acquire land and cultivate crops. But be warned! In the course of the game, an event will occur in each of the zones. Its impact may be positive or negative. Roll the dice to determine the playing order. Whoever rolls highest plays first, thereafter turns are taken clockwise. Put the player cards in the middle and each pick one. The symbol determines your class during the game and your starting capital. 10 seasons long, you will cultivate cassava, tomatoes or oil palms. This is how it works. Imagine you're the poor player. Your starting capital is limited. Let's assume that at the start of the game you roll a 5. This entitles you to buy up to 5 plots of land. However, you earn just $5. The table with costs and returns shows that the most you can buy is 2 plots of cassava for $2 each. You may plant these crops on any available plot on the playing board. Now imagine that you're the rich player, so this time you have plenty of starting capital. Also, being rich, you're entitled to roll both dice. Assume that you roll an 8. Your starting capital would allow you to buy, say, 2 plots of oil palm, 2 plots of tomatoes and 4 plots of cassava. You decide to plant the tomatoes and the oil palm in different zones. After all, it seems sensible to diversify and spread risk in case of a negative event. On the other hand, planting the same crops in adjacent plots within a single zone will entitle you to an upgrade. So perhaps that's the way to go with your cassava crops. By the time all farmers have taken a turn buying land and planting crops, the growing season is already coming to an end. It's time to calculate this season's returns as well as next season's costs. Let's start with the returns. The table lists the returns for each crop and each upgrade. The poor player earns $1 for each crop of cassava, which adds up to a total of $2. The rich player does rather better. She earns $18 for her combined crops. Next, all farmers must pay costs for next season. These are determined by a roll of a die. For example, if the roll of the die is 1, then you will have to pay $1 for each cassava plot. If the roll of the die is 5, you will have to pay $3 per oil palm plot. Check out the rules of the game for all details. By now, you may already be in trouble, possibly even facing bankruptcy. So perhaps you should negotiate with the others to try and improve your position. You might even depend upon your negotiation skills to survive. And will that really do the trick? Are your land rights genuinely secure? Well, not quite. After all, land rights are negotiated amidst a complex struggle for power. So be aware that every season ends with an unpredictable reshuffle of these rights. This means that at the roll of a die, you might lose or gain land. For example, if the outcome of the roll is 3, the middle class player may steal 1 plot from another player and plant a crop of her own choice for free. Check out the rules of the game for all details. After 5 seasons, each of the zones experiences an event. This will impact positively or negatively on the costs and returns in the affected zone, profoundly altering the positions of the players. So let's consider the 6 events that could take place. The appearance of a market is rather good news for farmers operating in the affected zone. The return on cultivated land increases, but so too does the price of any unoccupied plots. The discovery of mineral resources turns all players in the affected zone into artisanal miners. Again, the impact is rather positive as the return per plot increases, but this implies that owning land in the zone becomes more attractive, so that the price of unoccupied plots also increases. The establishment of a cooperative in a zone is an incentive for pool players to collaborate. This may boost their earnings and inspire them also to collaborate in other areas. The appearance of a private investor is a rather disruptive event. The entire zone is claimed and turned into a massive oil palm plantation. As a grower of oil palms, you are tolerated by the investor, but other farmers lose their land and become low-paid workers. The outbreak of a disease is potentially very bad news. All tomato and oil palm crops in the zone are affected, resulting in a much lower return. Flooding has devastating consequences for farmers in the affected zone. All plots and crops are lost and the struggle for land starts anew. These are the basic rules of the game. However, as the game progresses, anything goes. It's up to you and the other players to negotiate your positions. Where precisely this will lead you remains to be seen. So as in real life, you'll find that the game is not played strictly by the rules. After another 5 seasons after the event, the game ends. The farmer who has accumulated most land and money is declared the winner. But for the poor players, surviving the land rush may well feel as a victory in itself. So these are, in a nutshell, the rules of the board game Land Rush. And remember, besides these rules, anything is negotiable.